Hey guys, welcome back to the Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to a good friend of mine. I've just known Kelvin just for a few short months now, but he's in part of our Unleashed group that we meet with on Thursdays. He's almost always there. Kelvin has an incredible story. He is the deaf-blind potter. Yes, you heard that right. He's deaf, blind, but he does pottery, has an incredible story of how God saved his life when he found out at age 13 that he had a condition that would make him blind one day. He just tells a story about how learning that as a kid at a soccer game, the lights all went out and he couldn't see. He didn't have any night vision. He slowly lost his peripheral vision, and then till how later it becomes where you can only see, like, it's almost like you're looking at wax paper or looking through wax paper. And he's learned to adapt and change. And yes, he got mad at God. He brought his big bags of disappointment to God and worked that out with him. And God showed him that there is purpose in the pain and that God has redeemed his story. And he is bringing, using Calvin to be a blessing to others. So Kelvin tried to end his life 12 different times and now shares that story with others and has saved approximately 10,000 people from ending their life through just sharing his testimony. And he's on TikTok and Instagram and all the social media channels, but he shares just his testimony of how God saved him and how he went through some really tough stuff, but now he teaches people how to persevere through their pain. He's just an awesome guy. Just every time I talk to him, I'm encouraged. Here's this guy that's going through so much and he encourages me. And it's almost like, man, I just don't have problems. Think about things that other people go through, not to minimize, my own pain and things that I go through and things that we go through that may be, less than others. It still matters. But it just gives you perspective and how there are other people going through really hard stuff and God has got them through it. He's going to get you through yours as well. And he's going to just lead you through it and guide you through that valley and through the other side. God has an awesome story for your life too. And so I'm excited to introduce Kelvin to you. If you want to jump into our Unleashed group, go to everybelieverunleashed.com. There's so many amazing things happening in that community. People like Kelvin who are becoming unleashed to do what they're called to do. And Kelvin and I are talking about all the really neat things that God is going to be able to use him to do, to minister to people and use the pain that he's gone through to be a blessing to others. So here is my interview with Kelvin. Kelvin, welcome to Unleashed. You finally made it.
Hey Ryan, it's so good to see you, even though I can't see you. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood, man.
I love your positivity. I mean, you go through more than what most people go through with their lifetimes. You do that in a week or a day sometimes, and you
Or
always
even
seem
in an hour.
positive. I don't know I don't know how you do it.
Well, I learned how to be a really good pole dancer and a really good fire hydrant lap dancer. When you can master those two things, everything's just simple.
Are you talking about when you're walking, you
Oh yeah.
sometimes run into poles?
Yeah, you run into those poles that come out of the middle of nowhere. You're like, "Oh, hi, honey. How you doing today? Let go on a little dance." Then if you want a really good experience, you just go full speed into the fire hydrant,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
tumble over, and you're like, "Well, let's just start doing a lap dance." Who
Oh my
knows?
gosh. Wow. That's why you need the see me cane, right? So you can
Exactly,
find your
exactly.
way.
Why we need a seeming cane, the lighted blind cane. Well, granted, it's not going to help me from running into the fire hydrant. I still have to hit it with the cane, but at
Yeah.
least it'll stop me from
You'll know it's
practicing my
there,
dances.
right? Well, I'm excited to have you. We're going to talk about your life and all the challenges you have and how you overcome them and how you're so positive about your pottery, which I can see behind you, and how you do it, what you do with that. So let's just jump into your story. Tell us how you got to where you are today and some of the stuff you had to go through and trust God through.
Yeah. And again, Ryan, thank you for so much for letting me be on your platform
Of course.
and share my story. And so I was born hard of hearing. So my parents didn't realize I was hard of hearing. So I didn't develop my speech until I was about 2.5 years old.
Hmm.
Um, and so through that, I kind of lived life through a deaf sounding voice
Mm,
and learned how to talk
mm-hmm,
with a deaf voice and everything. And people were like, "You sound different." I didn't really behave different, but
mm-hmm.
with my hearing loss and reading became very difficult for me because I couldn't see. I could read the words, but I couldn't really understand how to make those sounds.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through a massive amount of speech therapy, really learn how to talk and just know what sounds make because I actually can't hear myself. And so I can feel the vibration of my body,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I'm able to make the sounds that I make.
Yeah.
And and so I don't know how to explain it, but when you vibrate your body, you start hearing the sounds, and then you're like, oh, I can hear myself. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
um, and then learning how to make those shapes in your mouth
Mm-hmm.
was always a challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
even until I became an adult, um, it was something I still had to work through. But I tell you, the way I overcame this challenge that I have of being hard of hearing and not being able to talk correctly was I was determined to sing to my wife when we got married. And so I took singing lessons.
Uh-huh.
And when I started taking singing lessons, I was getting extremely frustrated because I couldn't match my teacher said your voice isn't matching the keys. And I'm like, yeah, I'm deaf. That's true tone deaf, right?
Mm.
And and one day it was like 6 weeks into my lessons. I'm like, I'm determined to do this. I was very frustrated. I was leaning up against the piano, and then I feel it, and he's like, Kelvin, you're in tune. You are in tune. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, but what are you doing different? I'm like, I'm just leaning on the piano, going me, me, oh, those exercises,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it, and he's like, dude, just touch the piano, and bam, and like all started connecting.
It's because you could feel the vibration
I
of the
can feel the
piano.
vibration, and that's how I learned how to talk.
Wow.
And so I could get my tune, and then I learned how to fine tune my voice
Mm-hmm.
for singing, and then that's how I was able to go from deaf voice to the voice I have today,
Wow.
which still has a little deaf tune to it, but I've been able to make major progress in that.
That's so
And so
awesome. And that's why you go around the world singing, right?
I try. Amazing. I'll save all your guys.
And we just lost all of our listeners right
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh man. Oh man. But yeah, kind of go through the rest of my story quickly,
Sure,
and we
go
can
for it.
move on to the next part. Is
Yeah.
when I was 13, I was playing a soccer game, and the field we were playing at night, and the lights on the field went out because of the breaker in the electricity went out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we didn't know this. My family didn't know this, but my vision was deteriorating from losing all my night vision.
Mm,
And at this soccer game, when we noticed that my night vision had deteriorated to the point where I couldn't even see what was in front of me.
mm,
And normally, if you got a moon outside, right, it's a little light of mine in the sky that helps you navigate.
yeah.
And in my case, I couldn't do it. And I just panicked. I said, Dad, 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 I can't see. I can't see. And so he came and got me. And
Wow.
then 3 months later, when we went to the doctors and they gave me my diagnosis that I have Usher syndrome type 2, which affects your hearing from birth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start gradually losing your vision.
Mm,
And so when I was 13, I was given the diagnosis of night blindness. And then they said, you're eventually going to go blind.
mm,
But we don't know when because it's unpredictable depending on who you talk to when somebody with my disease would
mm,
eventually go blind or just become legally blind. And that really took a turn for the worse for me when I was 19 years old.
mm. How'd you
And
handle that as a 13-year-old kid hearing that?
I didn't. I was in denial,
Yeah. Oh.
completely in denial.
Mm,
And so I just kept playing soccer because soccer
mm,
was my game.
Yeah.
and we kept traveling all over California
Yeah.
for the best games and tournaments and whatever. And we really, I just completely in denial, and I was in denial because I even got my driver's license
Yeah. You
and I
just probably
drove.
couldn't, you weren't out allowed to drive at night. Not supposed to,
Hey,
right?
statute of limitations way gone
Right,
now. So,
exactly.
but I drove at night,
Uh-huh.
but it was risky.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was crossing the street
Yeah.
and in a neighborhood or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky if I didn't hit them.
Mm.
And um, yeah, that was a scary situation. And I wanted that freedom.
Yes.
And I think that's where we find ourselves in today's society is that we want that freedom so much. We're going to do whatever it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in complete denial, in complete denial of what that freedom, what might do to me in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so when I was 19 is when that all kind of hit me in the face.
Mm-hmm.
My vision went from 180 degrees
Mm-hmm.
to 20 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in still, I mean, I accepted the fact that I can no longer see up, down, left, and right,
Okay.
but I wasn't willing to embrace deaf
Wow.
blindness.
So you had to like literally just so I can get a picture of this, you had to literally like move your head if you wanted to see to the left or
Yep.
the right or up or down. Got it.
Yeah.
You couldn't see in the periphery or above or
Yep.
below. Okay.
So like when you drive, like
Yeah.
you can normally see the mirrors, your
Yeah.
side mirrors,
Yeah.
and also your rear mirror. So
Right.
while you're
Right.
driving, because you have that peripheral vision,
Sure.
I couldn't do that.
Mm.
And I kept driving though. I mean, I'll never forget this one time. I was going to the sports store to pick up
Uh-huh.
some stuff,
Yeah.
and I drove my car, and
Mhm.
then I got there, got out of the driver's seat, dropped my blind cane, put it together, and walked into the store, and got what I needed. Came out, got folded my blind cane, got back in the car, and drove home. And I was like, and then like it was like the day later, I was driving and I never saw the street light,
Mm.
the intersection,
Yeah.
and I blew right through the intersection, and I realized this is when I need to stop,
Yeah. Mm.
and that was tough. I turned in my driver's license at that point, and then
Mm.
um yeah, so yeah, legal blindness was not easy for me, and it almost took my life.
Wow. When
Um,
did you was 19 when you could not see anymore? Or what was the point where
no, so
you went
legal
from 20
blindness
degrees
is
down to nothing?
Yeah, so legal blindness means that you're 20 degrees or less of
Okay.
vision,
Okay.
or
Okay.
2200 vision. That's what legal blindness means.
Got it.
Um, and that's where I was like, all right, I can't see up and down and left and right, but I can still see really good in the central part of my vision.
Yeah.
And so I could still do all the things like everybody else can do. But it was one of those things where because I could still see, I could fake it like I can't see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the hardest part for me because I
Mm.
can look you straight in the eye
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and be like, oh yeah, oh, I'm with you, oh yeah, and like I can do it all day long,
Yeah.
but I ain't seeing nothing, you know. Uh, I mean, and so when I was 19, because I could still read large text, I had a difficult time reading small text
Mm-hmm.
at that point, and then I could still do a lot of my work
Mm-hmm.
that I did. And I crashed one of the golf carts at work, and they said no more driving for you. I'm like, oh man. But it was one of those where God and I had a wrestle. I
Yeah.
mean, it really was an Isaiah or not Isaiah, but Israel situation,
Uh-huh.
and where I would go up into the mountains and try to end my life.
Mm.
And I would scream at God. I said, "You made me this way.
Mm.
I didn't want this." And I would go up there and looking for a fight with a bear or an animal or whatever.
Mm.
And I would come down and I would do this 12 times.
Yeah.
And on the 12th time, right when we were starting to get prepared to go to Israel, I was like, God, I don't know why you made me this way. And then that still soft voice, like you talked about in your podcast a couple of days ago, with the highlighter,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that still soft voice in your heart, your mind, and your soul just kind of talks to you like, Calvin, 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 I love you, my son,
Mm.
and I got a plan for you,
Mm.
and I need you to embrace deaf blindness, and let me show you how you're going to get through this. And I'm thinking, okay, because it was the first time I really had an encounter with God
Yeah.
that really meant something to me.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, okay, so I had to surrender that blindness
Mm.
to him and let him do what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what we end up doing. Is him and I walked through that journey together, and he showed me Romans 5:3-4. Also, so rejoice in your suffering, persevere, knowing that perseverance builds a character that has hope in Christ.
So good.
And that alone changed everything how I look at the world. It went from poor me, I'm in my sorrow state, I don't want to do nothing, to how can I use this pain that I'm dealing with right now to change your life?
Yes. Mm.
That's when everything changed for me.
Yeah.
And I started taking on the mission.
Mm.
Can I inspire one person today?
Mm.
Because I decided I'm embracing deaf blindness.
Mm.
And it wasn't easy. It was not easy.
No, I'm sure not.
And I ended up leaving Bible school at that point, went home, went to deafblind school, and I tell you, that's an experience.
How old were you then?
I was 20 at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when they said I had to learn how to sign again
Yeah. Wow.
without my vision. And learning tactile signing, I tell you, I never touched so many people in my life. Uh, but that's the only way you can talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, there was this one lady there, and she thought I was the cutest thing ever. And I was like, this is getting a little too more than normal.
Right.
And I'm like, I think we're done here.
Oh my gosh.
And, but it was one of those things where like this world is so quiet
Mm.
and so isolated.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I couldn't handle it. I could not handle that isolation.
Yeah.
And so I went in the mountains, or not went in the mountains. I went to church in New York City,
Mhm.
and also went to the gym a little farther away from the campus.
Mhm.
And but what was interesting in this time that I was doing this, I would go into the city, go to church,
Mhm.
take the Long Island Railroad all the way out to Penn Station, get off of Penn Station, and hop on a subway or walk to church or however. I mean, I never knew that you could worship in a dance studio. That was a new
Wow.
one
So
for
you
me.
were downtown Manhattan then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
Wow.
so when I would get, there was this one night, it was a Thursday night. I'm walking there and I'm going to church,
Mhm.
and no, I was walking home from church. That's what it was. And I was walking home from church, and I'm about probably 3 or 4 blocks away from Penn Station.
Uh-huh.
And it was, I think it was, I can't remember what, it was like February or March. It was just freezing cold. I never knew what a wind chill was
Yeah.
because I'm from San Diego. we don't have windshields here. Like,
Right.
what is that? Like, it's like, and I'm like, oh, I'm just dying. And so I hear the traffic go across me, like you're supposed to properly do across the street.
Mhm.
And then I hear the traffic now doing the surge and going in the direction I need to cross the street. I'm like, perfect. I tap my cane off the curb and sweep it to the left, and I take my first step off the curb. Boom! That mirror hit me so hard on that taxi.
Gosh.
Took my cane, sent it down the street, and I'm literally stunned. I just been hit by a car, and I got no cane in my hand.
Oh my gosh! Did it hit you or just hit the cane?
And so I hit the cane full speed, and it got my right arm because my right arm was out.
Goodness.
And and then it go, and I'm out of panic.
Was this at night?
It was at night.
So he just didn't see you, or he was being rude or something.
I don't know. It's taxi drivers. Yeah. You never know what they're doing anymore. Right. I mean, yeah, they're not going to lose their license if they get in a car accident, you know? Right. Like, oh man. But and the guy just kept driving.
Oh my gosh.
And so several people saw it and they were able to give me my cane didn't break, but I was surprised.
Wow.
But I also don't hold my cane very tight, so it's easy for it just to go. But so somebody brought it to me, and then I just like I was just shocked. Like this just happened to me. And I'm alone. And this is before cameras were really on our phones and all this stuff. And I was like, what do I do next? Like that I couldn't like process that. Yeah. And so next thing you know, somebody just grabbed me and I said, I gotta go to Penn Station. So they took me to Penn Station. I got on the train, went home, and then was there for almost about a month. Yeah, I didn't come back. And then my people from church were like, Calvin, where are you at? And I was like, well, I got hit by a car and I'm scared to go out now and I'm paralyzed from it. And so one of my buddies picked me up, took me to church.
Yeah.
And then I went home. I'm like, I think I could do this again. So I come back. It's like 1-2 weeks later after all that. And I'm more close to the church now. And this time I step off the curb. I sweep my cane to the right and left the way they're supposed to do it before you step off the curb. And again, my cane gets hit by the taxi.
What? Oh my God.
It's literally within like a 6 to 7 week. I don't remember all the the timing on this, but it was the second time I got hit. And and this is all at night. And I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? Right? To not be seen. Yeah. And this is where like, all right, well, but I wasn't as traumatized in that one because it didn't impact my physical body. Yeah. It impacted the cane. And I was okay. I mean, I was able to go to church and finish that out and do what I needed to do. And then but I didn't let it paralyze me this time. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, you continue to do that. Finished school, got my guide dog, went home. And it was that summer, or that fall, I forget exactly. I'm crossing the street that I cross every day. And I'm using a cane. I don't know why my guide dog wasn't with me. And I cross and this car just rolls right through the stop sign, and I sit right on top of the hood.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, "Hello, it's so good to see you." You know, wow. You know what I mean, that was woo. I'm like, man, my leg. I'm like, and the person stopped eventually, and like, are you okay? You okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm walking here. You see. But I was good. Like it was like a slow California roll through the stop sign, and wow. And so so I ended up being hit by a car 3 times in my life. And I tell you,
I don't think there's nobody else on this show that can say that. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, like I now have like certain things that I do every single time I get off a curb because of these experiences.
Sure.
And but the California roll one was like there was no there. It, I was like, come on, you got to see this. And so
Right.
yeah, so that those experiences 10 years later would make me have to make some decisions in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I finished school, got my degree in communication, and then got a minor in ceramics. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of ceramics, ceramics is what healed me
Mm-hmm.
in embracing this pain that I live with deaf
Wow.
blindness.
Wow.
And when I was at deafblind school, they put me on a potty wheel and said, Kelvin, you need to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? You're going to get on a potty wheel and you're going to throw. This is what you did in high school. And so I was on the potty wheel, and I'll never forget getting so angry and throwing the clay across the room and saying, I ain't doing this no more. I can't
Right.
see it. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, no, 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 no. Take the clay and remold it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're crazy.
And you
You
take it
crazy
and throw it
lady.
back and hit him in the face, right?
Exactly. I said, I can't do this. No, no, you
Wow.
got this. And
Yeah.
then I did it, got it centered pretty quick, then
Mhm.
made a little bowl out of it. I was like, okay, I think I maybe. By the time I left there, I wasn't a good potter yet, but I was okay. I
Yeah.
could go to college and get a minor in ceramics.
Wow.
And like, if you want a water feature, I can make you that now. If you want a giant vase that 10 feet tall and
Uh,
5 or 6 feet wide, I can make that for you.
mm,
Like, because I taught myself. Well, I mean, I took the classes and did all that, and
mhm.
I mean, those are the things that I did in college. I'm like, I if I can do this, I can pretty much do whatever
Yeah.
anybody asks me to make. As long as you don't make me have to make features. I don't like making features, and I don't really like making plates. But if you need plates, I have a way to make plates. Um, but yeah, so that on a whole, between the pottery, being hit by a car,
Mm,
and finishing school and doing all those things, getting married, really kind of set me on a path of becoming an entrepreneur. So
mhm, mm.
yeah, I mean, I've been kind of jabbing along here a
No, it's
lot.
all
So
good. How'd you go from, hey, I'm pretty, I can make some pottery to, hey, I'm actually going to use this and help other people get through their pain.
so these stories are getting long, man. Because there's so many parts to how I got there. And
Oh, good.
so the first part is when I was when I had graduating high or college,
Hmm.
got a job with the state, which I don't recommend working for the state of California. If you want to live in a box, stay in a box, then sure, go do that job. But I couldn't do it. I got in a lot of trouble. Um, and then I found a nonprofit wanting to build a program to help blind people be successful in employment and learn assistive technology.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, perfect. I sent my resume over, got the job, built the program. Within 6 months, it was successful.
Mm,
I was like, perfect. I got a program, and I was getting so many referrals. It was growing and growing and growing, and I had to hire more people to
mm,
run the program. And then we had a contract with the county of San Diego that they would take our students to be employed there, and that worked out really well. And then I'm like, all right, this is good. This is a good program. This is successful. But I had one of the main things that we had to do to raise funds is the students had to have their butts in the seat to be able to bill,
yeah.
to get paid. And that was one of the biggest issues with our budget is that we didn't have a good way to calculate the butt in the seat that didn't show up.
Mm,
And that's where I started, all right, how can I get these students to come more efficiently and not be so worried about, because these are all blind people coming to
mm,
my office.
mhm.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to create a robotic blind cane. So that way it guides you to my office.
Mm-hmm.
It takes care of all the street crossing, take care of all the people around you. You're not
Mm-hmm.
running the scooters or bikes or everything good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I hired a team. We put the first prototype together. Like it worked. This was 2018. Just
Okay.
when all this kind of started being put together. And so I kept working the assistive technology training program and doing the robotic blind cane at night with my team. And then we went to go test it in 2019 with the market
Mm-hmm.
to the blind population. And I had made another cane with a light. It was a lighted blind cane, and it looks like a lightsaber. And I was like, I'm gonna take this with me as well. So I took both the lighted blind cane and the robotic blind cane with me, and I started showing it to different people using it. They're like, "Whoa, what's that? What's that?" And everybody was like, "We want the lighted blind cane,
Mm.
not your robotic blind cane." I'm
Yeah.
like, "What? Wait. You don't want the freedom to just take you anywhere you want to go? No, 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 no. I want a defensive walking tool." I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I get that. I get that. Okay, and so that's when I made 100% pivot because we were also running out of funds from the robotic blind cane to the lighted blind cane.
Mm.
And then right when I about did that, I had one of my colleagues get severely hit by a car,
Oh my gosh.
and she was visually impaired because I we hire blind people to do train blind people. It makes it so much easier. Um, Life experiences help blind people. I feel like so
Yeah.
we end up taking that um her story because she ended up in the hospital for almost 6 months,
Oh my gosh.
and
Wow.
then being able to use her story a little bit and my stories and kind of mix this story together to start raising some funds. And so I was starting to get it looked at by investors and so forth. But we have one major issue with this lighted blind cane, and that was the weight in the tube.
Mm-hmm.
And the tube itself was 1 inch wide, like a 1 inch tube pipe,
Mm-hmm.
if you're familiar with that. And we were shining light through it and make it illuminate like a lightsaber. The problem is it made it over a pound and a half. You got to be at 13 ounces for a blind cane.
Mm.
And like, how am I going to do that? Like, the technology doesn't exist to make the tube smaller and be translucent enough to light go through.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it was 2020, February of 2020, my buddy, one of my mentors, he said to me, go to the conference. I'm going to be there. And let's go look at a couple of things. We get there. I'm looking at a bunch of things, striking out, just striking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then my buddy said, you need to come check this out. We go and I talk to this company, and they're like, so we make this tube. It's not made in traditional format. It's a brand new invention that we created about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's translucent. And it's about the same diameter as a blind cane. I'm like, okay, let's try this out. So they sent me a tube in June of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they sent me a tube in June of 2020. The first time it worked perfectly.
Mm.
But here's the problem. With March 2020, had two investors that were ready to invest in the CME cane or in the lighted blind cane. And they were like, Kelvin, we've lost all our investments because of COVID hitting them so hard financially. We're not going to be able to invest in the CME cane. And
Mm-hmm.
I was leaning on that investment to take me farther.
Mm.
So let's fast forward from March of 2020 to June of 2020. I get the tube and it slam dunk. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife and I, we foster kids, and our first foster son at this point ran away from us. And we're like, we're devastated by that. I'm focused on that. And then July comes, and my vision at this point, so I'm 32 years old at this point, my left eye goes from being able to see 20 degrees
Mm-hmm.
to seeing through wax paper. I got cataract surgery to see if I could fix it. Didn't do any good for me. And then in 20 in July of 2020 is when my right eye went completely wax paper on me.
Oh gosh.
And so where I can't see anything through it clearly.
Mm.
It's like looking through the worst foggy day of your life.
Yeah.
And you can't see anything literally in front of your face. I was doing at this point all the engineering for this DeafBlind cane. And because I lost all this vision, I could no longer do the engineering.
Mm.
And I was losing complete hope that I was going to ever get this cane off the ground. I was devastated. I was like, God, you gave me this.
Yeah. Mm.
I think I've been here before.
Right.
Like, you gave me this.
Mm.
There's a reason why I found a tube that nobody can figure out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why I have all of this. What are we doing? But the problem is my vision got so bad, I couldn't even just send an email.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, granted, I trained in assistive technology, helping blind people get jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still using my vision
Yeah.
when I did that training. So I took from July to October to teach myself, by myself, how to use the computer without my vision.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I changed my phone to a really tiny iPhone so
Mm-hmm.
that I only could use the screen reader to be able to
Mm-hmm.
navigate. And by doing that, I wrote the first 12 chapters of my book, started learning how to do all these different things, learn how to build websites
Mm-hmm.
just with screen readers, learn how to do all these different things just with a screen reader that I used to do.
Wow.
But I had to do it differently. And it came just at the right timing that I had mastered kind of all of this.
Mm.
Because in December of 2020, my wife or one of our friends, her daughter wanted to use a pottery wheel, and I haven't been doing pottery for almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'll make you a deal. I'll let you have my kiln and my pottery wheel, and as long as I get to come over once a month to make some pottery, because I knew I needed to heal, because
Yeah.
that's what healed me in the past.
Yes.
So I went to her house, and her oldest sister got her camera out, took a video of me
Mm-hmm.
making pottery, posted on the internet. We went to bed that night. I went to bed at Kelvin Crosby. I woke up the next day. I am the deaf blind potter. And little did I know I would grow over 10,000 followers in 10 hours,
Oh my gosh.
over 100,000 views in
Uh-huh.
10 hours. In 3 days, I would hit over 50,000 followers and 1.4 million views
Oh my goodness.
on my third video. And then I would just keep growing and growing and growing. And then January came,
Mm-hmm.
and I would hit one video, hit 15 million views, and I grew over 200,000 followers.
Oh my gosh.
There's a problem here. This isn't a business.
Right.
And I have no website.
You're just a social media star, right?
Yeah, right? But people are wanting pottery.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a kiln. I don't even have a studio.
Yeah.
And then I'm realizing, wow, I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So then I quickly threw a website together, created a custom order form, paid a payment system.
Uh-huh.
And I just started taking custom orders.
Wow.
I raised enough money within about a 3 or 4 month period to hire an engineer to kind of help me get the CME cane back up and running.
That's so cool.
And I love to tell people, and the way the Deafblind Potter came to life is I just started sharing my pain, my
Yeah.
suffering. And people were like, wow, we're all suffering because it was COVID. We're all isolated, wondering how we're going to have hope. And I was providing hope through my deaf blindness.
That's amazing.
And then that August is when everything really changed. I became just not the deafblind potter living beyond its challenges. I became the deafblind potter that's going to help you live beyond your challenges. Because I put out a video about my suicide attempts. And little did we know that video would hit 5 million views and save over 10,000 lives.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
And so I end up taking this deafblind potter business, taking the money, all the proceeds, and hiring a lady who was in chronic pain. And she was the first custom order piece that I ever got. But she was a mechanical engineer. But she was in so much chronic pain because she served our country, and our country poisoned her. We'll get into that conversation. But I was able to give her a way to make a living for her family.
Oh, wow.
Because of the deafblind potter. And we were able to build a CME cane. And today, the CME cane is well and alive. We're about ready to do our next round of testing on the new version of the CME cane. And the CME cane, just FYI, CME cane is the lighted blind cane, by the way. I don't know if I clarified that for everybody. But the CME cane, my fingers crossed and God willing, will be officially fully launched March of 2025.
Awesome.
And the beauty of it, a blind person invented it, a blind person developed it, and we're going to have blind people manufacturing it. It's going to be amazing when we officially launch in March, and everybody gets to see me cane. And it's all because I decided I wanted to heal.
Yes. That's amazing.
Because I decided I'm going to live beyond my challenges. And now I'm helping others live beyond theirs.
You are. Yeah. Wow. I love your story. It's so incredible, so inspiring. So what's your advice to people who are, people struggle with all kinds of stuff, and some of it's maybe heavier than what you've gone through. Probably a lot less than what you've gone through. How do you tell people when you meet them, like, how do I just get through the day? What are some of the tips that you would say for just making it through?
Yeah. So I tell people, like, you got to first decide right now. Are you going to grieve with that pain right now that you're in, with sorrow or with joy? Because if you grieve it with joy, it's going to hurt, yes. But when you start looking at it from a joyful standpoint, it just allows you to make the next step.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to make the next step, but I'm willing to take the leap. And then the next thing you know, you're getting stronger, that character that God builds in you. And then the next thing, you're having hope. And then when you get that hope, that next time that pain comes, that hope was there.
Yeah.
So the more of that hope you get from God, because He keeps coming through on your pain, your suffering, your difficulties, and you have to be willing to not interpret it in your vision, but interpret it in God's vision. Because if you allow your pain to be interpreted by you, it will fail you.
Yeah. Mm,
But if you allow your pain and your suffering, your difficulties to be interpreted by God, you will always, always have joy in it. And you'll always have hope.
mm,
And God takes care of the rest. He perseveres you and he builds the character in you to be able to keep
mm.
going.
That's so awesome. How can people find you?
Yeah. So you can find me at deafblindpotter.com. That's deafblindpotter.com. And the other thing, if you want to learn all about See Me Cane, you go to seemekane.com. So that's C, like you see me, and then me, like I'm awesome. And also Kane, like the old person Kane, .com.
Love it. Calvin, this is awesome. I love having you on. I knew we'd have an awesome conversation just hearing your story. It's so inspiring and
Yep.
inspires me every time we talk. So you're welcome back anytime. Well, let's definitely, when you get the See Me Cane launched, let's have you come back on and talk about
Yep.
that process. And
Well, let me make one quick announcement.
go
As
for it.
this is out every Sunday, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Uh-huh.
So that's 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Mhm.
We are launching the Live Beyond the Challenge with the Deafblind Potter campaign,
Mm,
which is all about how God is a good potter. And I will be doing live streaming, and people can interact with me on all the socials. So YouTube, Instagram, Rumble,
love it.
Facebook, and Insta.
Hmm.
And you go to all those places, you can find me, and you get to be a part of this new community where we're all living beyond our challenges together. And we truly are going to be able to walk through the clay journey with each other,
Hmm.
as well really see how God is the amazing good potter.
Hmm.
So
I love it. And so if they want to follow that, just follow you on one of their favorite
yep.
social media channels. Are you the Deaf Blind Potter or
Yep.
all on
I
all those?
own all of that. Anything
Nice.
deaf, blind, potter. So,
Oh my gosh. So cool, man. Thanks for being
so
on with me. Appreciate
all
it.
right, man. Like I always say, go live beyond
That's
your
right.
challenges.